Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, wherever you are. Welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with Sensei Al Bob. Your Sensei Al Bob, is your griot for this journey of entertainment and edification. And don't believe a word I say. We're here to entertain you. And here it is, New Year's Eve. It's about, what time is it? It's about 10 o'clock, 10:08. So 2 more hours till New Year starts, 2022. And you go, wait a minute, Al Bob, this is December 20th. In 2 hours, it's only December 21st. Yes, you know, the winter solstice. And the winter solstice, it has been the new year because it's the winter solstice is the longest dark day of the year of the 365. And the day after December 21st will be December 22nd. And that day will be 1 minute and point 0.3 more sunlight than 20 December 20th and 21st. So that's why winter solstice is New Year's, right? And it was changed by the Romans, the Julian calendar for business reasons. And we are here experiencing um, strangeness, right? And that's because the Piscean age is gone and the Aquarian age is here. There's still Piscean age inertia, but um, we are on the cusp of a new era. You are the decider. You get to choose what you want to do. You get to choose how you want to do it. And if you can step up and do your best, then you're going to do well. And that is the karmic reason you're here. Not to get a bigger car, a nicer house, a girlfriend, any of the above. You're here to do a karmic dance. And most people, what is karma, dharma? What is that? You have no idea what you are. You definitely aren't this mud puppet here. You're not even your soul. You are your spirit. Because your spirit is all our relations. It is connected to everything. And if you were to just open your mind and experience, I'm not the first guy telling you this, and there have been many, many people, men and women, over the eons, understanding this, being exposed to the mystery schools, being illuminated, as I am at this moment. As you can see, I am glowing. Oh, 4 minutes and 14 seconds. Right? 10:10. So, there's one person there. I really want to say anything. The last few nights, I've had some pretty long chats, and we've had some pretty amazing cadre showing up. Oh, there's someone. Todd. Tool. Oh, Mr. Tool, Trainman. What's up? Well, Tool, do you know, TT, that's what it's just so I've used here. TT, are you realize that right now this is New Year's Eve, right? I should have a New Year's Eve party hat, but I don't, and a noisemaker. And in 2 hours, um, we will have 12 o'clock, and we will have the new year. And that is what the uh, I was doing these chats, and but the last few have been like 10 hours, 6 hours marathons. So I've just been getting a few hours sleep. So um, if I yawn, excuse me. But anyway, it's New Year's Eve. In 2 hours, it's going to be the New Year. It's going to be the year 2022. And in this 2 hours, if you step up and visualize what you want your life to be. Now, I did not know that. Happy New Year's, right? And when the New Year's comes, there's a shamanic doorway that opens that allows you to step through and no longer be in this dimension. You can be in whatever dimension you want to be in. And so what dimension, what kind of world do you want, TT? What do you want for the year 2022? Do you want to be in the, insane clown party year? I mean, that's what we've been going through for the last 20 years, the insane clown party. When you think that Richard Nixon was more progressive and more representative of the general public than Barack Obama, did you know that Richard Nixon started the Environmental Protection Agency, that he started basically Medicaid and Medicare, that he actually had, um, you know, um, daycare for most working people. He had health care for most working people. He had an economy that serviced the needs of the middle class and not the 1%. And he was also working on bringing forth disclosure on what was going on with the breakaway civilization and Operation Paperclip and the alien involvement. And now, when they say alien involvement, it's not little green men per se. It is just creatures that are out of context from us mud puppets. So, how does that affect you, TT? What do you think? You know, is any of this ring true? Do you feel it? You know, and TT, have you ever had an experience of a third kind? Did you ever see a flying saucer? Did you ever have missing time? Did you ever talk to an alien? They're all around. Did you ever see the movie Men in Black? Did you ever meet a man in black? They aren't like the movies. They're a little stranger because the Men in Black are more or less dimensional creatures. It's not Will Smith. So I'll tell you a story about my experience with Men in Black. So in the early 80s, like 82 to 88, I was part of a number of what would be called mystery schools. And then there are other things. I belong to a thing called the U.S. Psychotronic Society, right? And what that was an outgrowth of a DARPA program that in the 60s were developing super soldiers, humans, that basically transhumans, and that were biological and technological. And so our group was dealing with the basically paranormal. And and what is paranormal? It is the parallel normal, right? And meaning multidimensional experiences. And we were developing technology that would A, be able to see it, and then B, able to have the individual experience it without having to go through, a traumatic experience. Esoteric, hey there, buddy. And so we're talking esoteric that tonight is New Year's Eve. I mean, that's because in 2 hours we're going to have the winter equinox, and what that is the longest, darkest day of the year, and all through history, that day has been the New Year because the next day, that day will have 1.3 minutes more light than December 21st, right? And then with each preceding day, the days will get lighter and brighter, and we will be moving towards spring, birth, rebirth, right? And with birth, you're aware. So here we are. So that's what we're celebrating tonight is New Year's Eve, right? And in 2 hours it's going to be, um, the new year. And the reason why it was changed, the Julian calendar changed it, and because this day is one of the most powerful days that any individual, they don't have to belong to a secret society. All they have to do is have conscious intent on changing their life. And in these next 2 hours, I want all those who are here to, be part of the chat, listen to my ramblings, and my ramblings are, you know, basically manifesting a shamanic energy force that will allow you to be the decider, right? To be able to shunt the distractions off to the side. And you will be able to experience and pick and decide what you want to be and do and accomplish and create to be the creator, the co-creator with love's, dynamic one love. And these 2 hours gives you the opportunity to choose that. And you don't, and the way you do it is you don't like, oh, I gotta think, oh, it's like think of yourself, visualize yourself in your imaginary mirror, behind your eyelids, and see yourself going into a park and sitting down on a park bench, and in front of you is a lake and trees all around, and paths and grass and bunnies bouncing and birds flying and fish jumping and people walking. And instead of thinking about, oh, I have to get my job, I can't stay here, I have to go do my job, I have to do the laundry, I have to go shop, none of those thoughts are in you. You're just in the moment in that park. That park is in your sanctuary of your own choosing, right? It's the Great Lawn. And you're sitting on that park bench and you are part of everything. That's every blade of grass, every breeze. Exactly. Frack thinking. So you're not allowing, it's not that you're not allowing, you're in the flow of the moment. And when you're in the flow of the moment, that's when you can connect to who you really are. Your spirit, not your soul, not your mud puppet, but your spirit, which is the dynamic of all our relations, where we're all connected, right? The great link. And so you're sitting on that park bench, and you're just you're in the moment, and you're watching what's going on, and in that, all that you want to be, all of that positivity, all of your past lives experience that brought you to this life to have a karmic connection to be all that you are. You're doing that right now without any thought, with just a fluid motion. You're here, you're part of it, you're experiencing it, and you are allowing yourself to assimilate what you're going to be for 2022, right? Only if you allow them to be. Yep. Silence is golden. Yep. So you're doing a great job, everyone, and you're aligning yourself with what you are choosing to be from this point on. And you're gonna walk through when midnight strikes and it's New Year's Day. You're going to walk through that doorway, and you won't be in the insane clown posse um, political party world of daddy global, and all of this stuff that's going on is it's not troubling. It's just what it is. It's only troubling if you go along with it. And a friend of mine sent me this great little video of this guy walking down the street, and and everyone's wearing a life vest, and he wants to go into a restaurant. And the guy goes, "No, no, no, you only have one life vest. You have to put on another life vest." And they get into an argument. It's really great because they talk about the whole vaccination thing and masks and all of that stuff without mentioning it all. So YouTube can't, and it is hilarious, right? So let's see. I'll go back to, no, we won't go there. We will go to this, right? And then we will go to, who else is there? Let's see. It's not there, so we have to go look at someplace else. So I want you to, as I'm mumbling to myself here, I want you to be in the flow in the park where you are assimilating what you're going to become. It's only entertainment. Yep, that's me. I'm just entertaining. Can't believe that I can't find this. Hmm. Well, that's what happened. You can't trust this technology shit. It just makes it just too difficult. Let's see. Let's go back to this. So, what do you guys think about what you want for the year 2020? You know? Oh, screw that. Well, maybe it's on the other one. Let's see about that. Oh, this is a nice one. I like this. What is consciousness? That's a really good one. Here's some smart people talking about what they think consciousness
Life
is.
seemed to be something beyond what could be explained in terms of mechanisms. This, of course, led to vitalism, this idea that we needed an élan vital, a spark of life. Now, We don't think of it this way at all. There's no need for that hypothesis of a special source. And my hope and belief, actually, is that the same thing will apply to consciousness. Instead of treating it as one big, scary mystery in need of one humdinger eureka moment of a solution, by examining its properties, separating them out,
doesn't he look like Harry Potter's nemesis?
The hard problem of consciousness, just as the hard problem of life was dissolved in the past. Now, life is not the same thing as consciousness. This is certainly very true. I think one of the most important differences between life and consciousness is you can't really put a conscious experience on the table and look at it. Conscious experiences are intrinsically subjective. They exist for the organism having them. This is a problem. It makes consciousness hard to study. How do you get the right kind of data? But it doesn't make a science of consciousness impossible, as some people sometimes claim. It just means it's quite challenging. You can still get data about what people's experiences are like, and you can try, predict, explain.
Does this guy look like a robot or what? Right? I don't want to just
as in the study of life, people identified different properties that living systems have, things like reproduction, homeostasis, metabolism. We can do the same thing with consciousness. It's not just one big thing. We can think of it in several different ways. And the ways that in the book and in my work with my lab in Sussex.
Oh, this guy, this is...
Everyone's talking about licorice pizza these days, right? And that's because it's the movie all the critics are falling for.
And here they are!
Here they are. And this is Rudolf Steiner's work. Now, esoteric, peace, love, harmony is something that we do every minute, every second when we are doing our best.
Out of karmic sources, I've tried to give a description which should lead, at any rate, in a few broad outlines, to a spiritual understanding of the spiritual life of the present time. In a certain respect, these lectures will, after all, form a totality, a single whole, which I will bring to a conclusion in my lecture next Tuesday.
That's next, like tomorrow.
Today I will give an example to show how difficult it can be to carry into this present time a spiritual science which should really be suited to this time. I will not try to answer the question today by reference to external circumstances, but I will answer it by a...
So that guy's interesting, and his little, guiding lines for an understanding of spirituality. Rudolf Steiner is, I think, the channel. And Rudolf Steiner, I studied him a great deal in the 70s and 80s. And there was still is, I think, a thing called the Theosophical Society. And they had a facility in Manhattan. They had one, they had the Theosophical Society, but they also but you had to be like on the inside to be part of that, which I was. But they had this other thing called the Green Door, which was kind of pretty much open for everyone. It was in Soho on Spring Street. And the building was very nondescript. I mean, it didn't have like all signs up, but it did have a green door. And if you knew what it was, you could get in there. And it was pretty much open for everyone. And it did a lot of social and interesting research. And if you were disciplined and serious, this is where the Theosophical Society and also the Thule Society, which I was part of, which was a very interesting crew because it was quite ancient, a mystery school, and it influenced the National Socialist Party in a great deal. And they in the very beginning, like in the 20s, they were part of this, and all of the super advanced technology came from this crew. And so they were part of this study of the paranormal / high technology. And so they, and they had other people. I mean, the Thule Society had been around forever, it goes back to basically Babylon, and Atlantis and Lemuria. And the real interesting thing is that we think those are the ancient builders. No, Atlantis and Lemuria really just, you know, a couple of generations from the folks who weren't even the builders, but were like the great, 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 great grandchildren. So we have no idea of who we are. And the powers that shouldn't be do everything they can to keep that confusion going. But it's very simple. That little uh, description I gave you about sitting on the park bench, all you got to do is go to the park bench, sit on it, and just look at what's going on, the chipmunks, the trees, the water, the fish, people walking by, and let yourself be in that present moment, and all of the distractions will go away. And then you can truly see clearly. And then you can, because in your sanctuary, there are other places. There's the gazebo, over where the great lawn is. Over there, this is gazebo, that's where the bands play. There's stairs that go up there, and it's got a roof over it, so if it rains, right? Well, the gazebo in your sanctuary, you say, I have a question I want to ask. You go up those steps, you go to the stage, and and each direction, the cardinal directions, north, south, east, west, represent certain things. And you have to, I'm not going to tell you, at least at this time, what they represent, because, um, see, all of these things are, as Mr. Consciousness was talking about, that's why I played that little piece, and he said it's very difficult to understand because it's really just subjective when you're viewing it from the material world, right? So for a good 30, well, almost 50 years of my 70 plus years, um, I was part of all these scholarly mystery schools that plugged into universities, and entities like Brookings and Council on Foreign Relations and the Rockefeller Foundation and the United Nations and all of those things. And I, through my workings for all these, I swam in and out of all of those organizations. And I never saw it as my career or job. I saw it as my calling. So I would be brought into these things and given access and uh, be initiated. But when it came time to like sign the contract and give them blood and basically say, I only believe in you. I said, nope, not going to do that. And they go, what? 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 And the people in the middle would get upset with me, but the people at the very top said, no, no, this guy, he's actually the kind of guy we want. We want him to choose. He's got a free will. So no, he can exercise that, and that's good. But all the other middle people who were like wearing the robes and trying to be the priests were like upset because I wasn't going along with the correct. I mean, I studied everything, I learned everything, I practiced everything, but I wasn't going along with the curriculum by, bending over. And all that did was alienated me from the middle management, which I didn't want anything to do with anyway. The people like in universities who want to be tenured professors, right? I never wanted that. I was a scholar. I was and not only was I that, I was an itinerant scholar. I was going to stick around in that university. I mean, Cornell and Duke and Georgetown. What other university did I really like? The New School. Those were large entities that I especially Cornell. I was so beautiful. I love the Finger Lakes. I love that part of New York. The only thing that why I'm not there today is that the lake effect and their winters. It was just too much for me. I spent 3 years, and each winter. I mean, it's January or February, and the sun comes up, and it's warm, and you run around in shorts, and you go teach, or you're in the library doing research. You come out around 2, and there's like 4 feet of snow and 20 degrees below zero. It's like, a good example. So when I was at Cornell, um, I had a girlfriend, and she was really a rocket scientist. I mean, she was, she was a literal rocket scientist. And she, you know, at Cornell, if you go to any national laboratory, um, you will find, like in Los Alamos, San Dias, they have Cornell Avenue and Cornell Boulevard, and at Brookhaven they have Cornell Drive, and Cornell is a real, the Manhattan Project, all of that. They were, part of the Rad Lab. Cornell was a real, along with, you know, Chicago, where Fermi Lab is, and Stanford. Um, those were real places that had all these amazing people, and that's what makes amazing things happen. It's not the edifice, the building, the hardware, whatever. No, it is the people who are housed in them and how the structure is, right? And when I was in these institutions, one of the not only was I like traveling, the itinerant scholar, I was a guy who would have the potluck dinners and the parties and start salons and things like that, so people could come and have a drink or a cup of coffee or whatever and talk about stuff interdisciplinarian, that they didn't have to, like, and it wasn't like the faculty lounge, which is like ridiculous, like high school. But this was more very relaxed. It'd be anything you needed to get relaxed in, and you could do anything you really wanted to, and it gave way. And why, Oppenheimer, right? General Groves really ran the Manhattan Project. He was the general, right? He paid the bills. And he was a really good organizer, and he was a builder. He was an engineer, and so he built, Los Alamos Labs. He built, Oak Ridge. He built those things and designed those machines and all that kind of stuff. But the science, right? All these like horse race, these really, interesting personalities, right? Um, what Oppenheimer, I mean, he wasn't like the sharpest pencil in the box, but what Oppenheimer did very well was he could get people to work together, and he would have and like at Los Alamos, that was like everyone was drunk or stoned and having sex with everyone and everything, and that was okay because that lubricated the understanding, the experiments, the creativity. If you're in a kind of stuck environment, which most universities are, um, you know, you don't get anything. And us, that all of the structure of like the pyramid scam up to the 60% part of the pyramid, those people are stuck in concrete, right? And they don't play well with others, and they're all about themselves, and there's no concept of the we and me. And Oppenheimer was quite the scholar in the emotional and spiritual and theologic sense, and he used that to motivate people to do their best, to do things that normally, if they were just stuck in their boring university, they would never have been able to accomplish that. But putting them all together in these facilities and keeping the rest of the distractive world away from them, um, in 3 years they made the atomic bomb. But the real untold story about the atomic bomb is that it was mostly developed by the Nazis in Germany. You know, in 3 years, the Germans, when they went into Russia, they killed 60 million Russians. They decimated all the Russian cities. Well, Leningrad and Stalingrad and all those grads were dust, all their industrial dust, right? And Stalin had to move what little industrial might he had up into way as far away from the Germans as he could. And we gave them pretty much all of the hardware that they fought the Germans with. But how did the Germans kill 60 million Russians in 3 years? I mean, if they just had bombs, bullets, that's a lot of bombs and bullets to kill 60 million people. And especially in that Russia's a gigantic country and everyone's spread out all over the place. It's not like they were all in one place. They were using nuclear weapons. So when the two bombs that we dropped in Japan, Hiroshima and Nagasaki, one was a plutonium bomb, and that's like a caveman bomb. And what it is you get a nuclear reactor and you just cook it away, and it gives off a tremendous amount of heat that you can turn into steam and run an electric turbine. But it also creates a tremendous amount of isotopes, right? That's fission, right? And so that's why because of the Price-Anderson Act, our Congress passed a law that made building nuclear power plants free for the utilities. And if anything happens, and they're pretty dangerous, and if anything goes wrong and there was an accident, and there have been hundreds of nuclear accidents in America. And that's one reason why there's, the increase in cancer went exponential after World War II, I mean, people were smoking cigarettes, 100 years before World War II. So it wasn't just tobacco. So you have a nuclear reactor, it cooks away, and it makes these isotopes. And one of the isotopes it makes is plutonium. And so that's the caveman cheap way to make a nuclear weapon, is to have a plutonium. And so you get a softball size of plutonium, and you put explosives all the way around it, and mathematically you have these like mirrors. So, and you have to also have detonators that go off like within a nanosecond. All of those explosives have to go off equally at the same time, and it squishes that piece of plutonium to the place where it hits critical mass, and bang-o, there you go. And so out there in Hannaford in Washington, they had these reactors, and they were cooking away, and they were making plutonium. But in Oak Ridge, they were taking uranium and turning it into yellow cake, and then adding chemicals to it and turning it into a gas, and then they put the gas, the uranium-rich gas, hexafluoride, blah blah blah, into a centrifuge, spin it up, and it would get U-235 or 238 or whatever the uranium isotope that was needed to make the uranium pod. And we didn't have that. I mean, we worked for 2.5 years, spent $1 billion at Oak Ridge, and we had like, grams, not kilograms, but grams of weapons grade uranium. And so we weren't going to get there. And basically, the Germans gave us, they were sending this technology and material to the Japanese, and they put it on a submarine, and they were just, heading there, and they were out in the Atlantic, and they decided, no. And the captain, there were deals made between America, England, and the Germans, certain groups of Germans, that they sent that submarine to America, and it had 55-gallon drums full of weapon-grade uranium, because the Germans, they had their own Manhattan Project, and they created a hydrogen bomb and nuclear weapons, and their factory, A.G. Farben, had this synthetic, at least on the books, it was a synthetic rubber factory, and it was called Barnard. And they spent $1 billion of the German money for this synthetic rubber factory, but no, that was their Manhattan Project. And they, instead of using this really complicated way of taking uranium and turning it into yellow cake and then turning it into this hexachlorophoride and then spinning it in a centrifuge and getting teeny weeny amounts of weapons grade uranium. They created lasers and used lasers to isolate radioactive material. And in the 1970s, the Hannaford and Lawrence Livermore and the guys in New Mexico, spent a lot of money and repeated the laser process that the Germans did 40 years earlier. So the Germans were there was this group that was, so they had flying saucers, they had 0-point energy, they had lots of stuff. And instead of using it to continue World War II, they basically threw the German people under the bus, and they all went to the Antarctic, and they all went to South America, to places like Argentina and Brazil and a few other places, and they set up shop there. And they also went to the moon, right? And they got to the moon by 42, and they were kicking ass in 42. They hadn't really lost the war, but the really smart Germans at the beginning, in 1938, they realized they could only do X. And so they had this other little idea. We're going to have this world war. We're going to disrupt everything. And we are going to, that disruption will allow us to make these leaps in technology. And we will not really use it against our brothers because, Hitler looked at America and because America almost went on the side of the Nazis. We had the American Boon Party. We were selling them oil and ball bearings and lubricants, even during the war. Good old Prescott Bush, And Prescott Bush wanted to, assassinate FDR and, have a putsch, take over the government, and we've already had like 5 or 6 of those, since the 1890s, and we've had 4 presidents assassinated, another 6 shot, and about another 8 shot at, and so, and that's what I'm saying. The average American, average European, average anybody has no idea what the heck it is. So they can't be, it's not in them. They are so dumbed down. And they don't, meaning if you were to give them the opportunity to find out what's going on, they would say, they would do anything they could to kill you so they wouldn't have to learn what's going on. They much rather, be in the way, believe in QAnon and believe in this and believe in that, and that's kind of where it is. And but tonight you have the opportunity to choose what you want to be, and so that's where you are, right? And again, anyone wants to, get a little more, good morning, good evening, good afternoon, and welcome to Dreamy Dreamland with your sensei, Al Bob. Your griot here to tell you stories, and don't believe a word I say. This is just for entertainment. Nothing is real, especially anything I'm telling you. And if you want to talk to me in a little more private setting, you can get a hold of me at my Gmail, thedudeawake42 at Gmail, thedudeawake42 at Gmail. And if you want to, and I'd really appreciate it because I've all $10 for the next 20 days, send me something at PayPal. And PayPal is making it harder and harder. Like today, I went to check my PayPal account, and for security reasons, take this test, right? And they had this little box, and they had 9 boxes in it, and they said, click on which is a tractor, and the boxes were like this big, and I couldn't enlarge them, and I'm half blind. I couldn't, and the pictures were blurry and blue gray, and you couldn't tell what was what, and you had to pick what the tractor was. It was like, really? So it's obvious that everything is falling apart, and the powers that be are just hanging up by their fingernails, and they're doing everything they can to disrupt, distract. And that's kind of what I'm not saying this virus isn't real. Sure, it's real. So is flu real. So is emphysema real. So is pneumonia. So is measles. So, these are all real things. And basically they represent, but it's not like the bubonic plague, and AIDS was a lot more scarier than this 19 thing, right? And if you go to Jimmy Dore, he's really on top of this, right? And he had a couple of really good ones. I mean, there's some real Nobel laureate guys saying, "Hey guys," and they did this back in 20. These 3, virologists and pandemic specialists, and they had Nobel prizes for what they did, and they came together and they wrote a paper and they published it within the construct of they put up a website and sent it off to all the different Nobel laureates and professors at universities, and said, instead of doing this stupid shit that everyone's doing, why don't we protect the most vulnerable? Don't close the schools. Don't crush the economy. And yes, have people kind of stay 6 feet away. I mean, do what you do when you have a bad flu, and but we didn't. We locked everyone in their house, and certain countries like New Zealand and Australia have taken it to the max, to the point where they're turning their countries into prisons. And Max Igon, he was talking about this in January and February and March of 2020, and then I have no idea where Max went. They took him straight off the internet, and he hasn't been able. He tried lots of different ways, but other people who would have them on his show, and they actually took Max off of not only his platform, but everyone else's. They took anybody who had Max interviewed on their show, those were taken down too. I mean, it's like, really, guys, what are you doing? And it's obvious this is all about the inability of these, the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand, etc. Who are the guys who, we have the best legislatures money can buy, and and also they're all blackmailed. Jeffy Boy, who allegedly killed himself in jail, and he was in a jail where you can't kill yourself, meaning the ceiling was like, 6 foot high, and there was nothing you could tie, a sheet to hang yourself, and all the sheets in those cells were supposed to be made out of paper, and they had TV cameras there, and in each block there were 2 guys, guards, who every 5 minutes were supposed to walk down the hall and look in those 12 things and make sure no one was trying to kill themselves. And so how did Jeffy do that, right? So either he was murdered or he was substituted, meaning they stuck somebody in his place, because they never showed what pictures of him, in the morgue or anything. All we got to see was a body, a gurney with a body bag, and a little bit the end where his head was, there was some hair, his color, sticking out of the body bag, and you only saw it for about all of 30 seconds because you just saw the video from the CCT camera go from the door to the 20 feet into the truck, and then it drove away. So it's and this is what's going on everything, and our food is poison. I went into a supermarket the other day, and I have very limited cash, so I'm the real careful consumer, and I was I got in there, and I kind of got in my the battery powered shopping cart that you sit in, the lazy boy with a basket. Anyway, so I'm like rolling around, and I stop, and I just say, you know what, I'm going to go into state. And so I did, and then I came and I rolled through the vegetable area, and virtually even the place where it said organic vegetables 40% more, they were no different. The organic ones were no different than the other ones, and their energetics they were all dead. Everything was dead, and everything in the supermarket was dead. And the meats were like, oh my God, And I went in the meat section, and it was earlier in the morning, so they didn't have their colored lights on. So as I drove by, and the refrigerated things and the meats were on things, but the majority of the people went there shopping, so they didn't turn on the lights, and the food was the meat, the chicken, the beef was green, not red. And the guy was back there, and I said, "What's up with this meat?" And he said, "Oh, the lights aren't on." And I'm looking at it, and it was green, blue, and he hit the switch. Everything was pink and red. I'm a lighting designer. I know all about color temperature and how you can make things look with just the right color temperature of lighting. So, I mean, I just drove through that whole supermarket, and and like I said, I only had $10, and I kept it in my pocket. So, and now I've been eating the last 2 years food that I've been growing, and I would say at least 40% of all the food I eat comes straight out of the forest, right? And I live on this neck of the woods where these three counties come together, and it's Sawtooth Mountain Range, and it's only one county road, and there's nothing going on there, right? And so no one sprays anything. There aren't, 15 miles over there, over like 5 different mountain ranges. That's where, Monsanto has their monoculture GMO food, and they spray it nonstop. And I have friends who are, psychic, very, very, very sensitive. And they had to move, and the water table over there is totally poisoned. And that's what our country is. It has all of this going on. And no wonder men are basically, men can't even get it up anymore. And, men's testosterone is like at zero. And white men, their life expectancy was getting, around 68. It's now coming down it's not coming down like this, it's coming down like this. And by 2024, white male life expectancy is going to be around 61. It's up, it was getting towards 72, it's going to be 61. And by 2030, white male life expectancy is going to be around 52. So, I mean, these things are occurring, and no one's talking about them. Right? There are many, many other very interesting political, economic. So basically, what they want to do is get rid of cash, get 40% of the population to be like me, totally dependent on Uncle Sam to survive. And if they don't like you, that little card doesn't work anymore. So, but that's why I eat out of the forest. I eat gold, dandelion, golden seal, burdock, mushrooms, certain barks. Um, like there are a lot of different burdocks I eat, and that's most of my roughage right there. And the things that really were kicking in my garden this summer were I had a lot of beans. My beans really did well. My tomatoes not so much because I'm up in the mountains and the light is very because it can be when it's sunny between 11 in the morning and 2 in the afternoon, it's like a microwave oven, right? And then it's in the shade and then it's cool, and at night it can get you know, almost frosty. And tomatoes don't like that. And other vegetables don't like that. So my onions didn't really grow. My potatoes really didn't. My every bean I had did amazing. And my squash did pretty good too. But my other things, not so much. So, and the earth in these mountains are very interesting because certain things love it, and like all my beans, especially my string beans, my snap beans, I have a fence around my garden, so the animals can't get them, and the string beans went over there and just covered the fence, and I had about 60 feet of fence around my garden, and I must have had half a ton of string beans, and my tomatoes did grow, but they were just green. So I had, green tomatoes. So, and tomatoes aren't really good for me. So it was okay. And my eggplant didn't grow, and that's not too good for me either. So, like all the things that weren't good for me didn't grow. All the things that were good for me did. And that's kind of energetics that you can have. You can, what time is it now? 11:04. You should start thinking, what do I want for 2020? What kind of world? And it's like you can't like change the world, but you can change your world because the only person you can change, all the change you want to see in the world, you should manifest it in yourself, right? And then you're an example, right? And every day, in the moment, every second that you are there, you should do your best, right? And you don't have to be perfect, but do your best. And if you do your best, that's like probably 80% better than anybody else because most people aren't doing their best, that's for sure. Because they get angry, they get, frustrated, they get anxious, they get fearful, and then they strike out in the stupidest of ways instead of like, being at ease with themselves. I mean, so the last few weeks I've gone to all my high spread doctors and they've tested me and x-rayed me and taken my blood and, I have everything that I have wrong with me still. I mean, it didn't, the damage was done, but I have this equilibrium, this homeostasis. My sit rate is really good. My eye pressure is really good. My A1C is really good. My all those blood pressure is my cholesterol. I still have those problems, but like my blood pressure is 118/60. That's pretty good. I mean, some doctors, if your blood pressure is like 135/70, that's like acceptable. It's high, but you know, they don't want it to be, a 175 or 150 over, 80. That's like, uh-oh. And the same thing with my blood sugar. I keep it between 104 and 140. right? And mostly it's between between 99 and 118. That's 80% of the time. But if I have a glass of wine or eat too much bread or a cookie, too many cookies, it'll get up there around 140. But there are people who have blood sugar of 500. You know, so and that's a good portion of our population. They're killing us off. And it's a slow rate, and big pharma and the medical industrial complex is making a fortune on it. I mean, the United States spends $1 trillion on the health care industry on every level in the United States. We spend more money than anybody else. We spend more money than like all of Europe does, and yet we are 48. I mean, places like Zimbabwe and Cuba and Costa Rica, they're like I mean, Cuba's number 6. We're 48. You know, and so and our healthcare measurable is like, and they have this other thing where they measure the happiness of the people. We are like dead last. You know. And that's because we are kept as anxious, barn animals, So here we are getting close to midnight, New Year's Eve. It's going to be, the winter solstice, the longest, darkest day. And we can walk through the doorway into our own better self. And that's what I'm talking about. I want you to visualize your better self. And when it hits midnight or tomorrow morning and all day tomorrow until midnight of the 22nd, visualize, think about, pray on, meditate your better self for the year 2022, right? I mean, our brother, Esoteric, is saying, love, peace, and understanding. That's a big picture. That's a very good thing. But for yourself, you have to really focus on what you want specifically, conscious intent, right? And then have conscious awareness. And that should be the foundation of what you want for yourself in 2022, is to be consciously aware of what's going on, so nothing will get in your grill. You won't get rolled over and taken advantage of, and you will be conscious intent, meaning you will be every day in every way taking the peace of the earth and making it stronger in your responsibility, in your bailiwick, in your in you, right? Because that's what this is about. You're here karmically to have the experience to make yourself better, and you can't do that unless you decide to do that. Otherwise, you're just going to be distracted and be stuck here for the next millennia. And the movie, The Matrix, was very good because the powers that shouldn't be, the hidden hand, they get a lot of power from distracting the masses and then using their angst for their own, dark, whatever they're doing, whatever their agenda is. And, but the real deal is none of this matters because ego is just an illusion. And so no matter how many wars or people die or all of that, it's irrelevant because the only thing that exists is love's co-creation. And it will work out at a certain point when everyone gets tired of the tomorrow and the tomorrow and the tomorrow and the tomorrow. Everyone gets tired of being Macbeth. They will go, okay, let me be my better self. And once you accept that, once you freely choose it with your free will to be your better self rather than that scumbag that you normally are, your life will be, wow, I'm having a good time. Wow, this is really amazing. How do you think I've done all this stuff? Because I am not a saint. I'm just, a moron like anybody else. But I've had the karmic and temporal and dimensional blessings to be in the right place and right time and have people around me to nurture me and to shepherd me in the right directions to the point where you're right, I'll do that. Yeah, I'm going to consciously choose to be my better self, right? I had many points, look, I took a little hiatus, for 11 years and worked in the corporate world for desperate lawyers and, totally 100% hedonist beyond belief. But that wasn't evil or bad. What it karmically did, and I have instantaneous karma, I gained 210 pounds, 220 pounds, and I died, right? And then when I came out of it, I was like a mess. Like every morning, because when I go to sleep, that conscious awareness that I am kind of gets unplugged, and all of my bodily functions go into autopilot, and I go to sleep, right? And I go into my super conscious mind, and I'm no longer here. So for anywhere from 2 to 8 hours, my body is just kind of, and now I'm instead of sleeping on my big bed in the forest, I'm sleeping on a couch that's only 25 inches wide. So I'm kind of squished up like this, and so when I wake up, everything hurts. So I have to meditate, seriously meditate, to align my energies. And then I get up and I walk around, and I go outside, I walk around, and once everything's flowing, my body starts to work again, and isn't as painful as it is when I wake up. But that's the cost for being that hedonist for 11 years. Now, I don't, regret anything I've done in my life. Now, I've been a moron. I've done stupid shit. But I've had enough ability to see what I did and learn from it. And one of the things I kind of run by is if I can learn a positive thing that makes me better, even if it's a stupid thing, and like I did for 11 years and died, and it kind of beat up my body, but I learned how to reestablish homeostasis. Like I said, my doctors say I'm the healthiest dead guy they know, right? They all kind of joke about that, but they're amazed, like especially my orthopedic guy, because he wanted to cut my legs off, because I have Charcot legs and I have aplastic anemia and I have a whole bunch of other things that my father had. And I should have been smart enough, because I was taking my dad, my dad for a good, I don't know, 15 years. Every 6 months, he would go to this hospital and they would drain every drop of blood out of his body and replace it with brand spanking new blood from some one individual, I have no idea who was no older than 22. And it had all the sparkly, good new stuff. And my dad, spanked right up. He was like a 22-year-old, ran around, played golf, blah, blah, blah. And, but, after 3 months, he started to, unwind like a clock. And at 6, he, and his blood was, I remember looking at his blood, and they would, they say, there's, when your liver goes out, they have dialysis, right? And that technology came from another technology. I forgot what it's called, but it's just like dialysis, but it was invented in the 20s when guys were working like spray metallizing and welding and working in, big steel mills, and they would get toxed out with all these heavy metals. and they developed a process that they ran their blood through a filter of some sort, and it took all those metals out, and they put the blood back in. I forgot what it's called. It's kind of on the tip, but that's the stuff they the artificial liver and kidney that they have comes from that technology. And both my parents first had that, but my dad had this other thing, this thing that's kind of like aplastic anemia, but it's not. It's got a different name. But they had to take all his frigging blood out of his body and put 22-year-old guys. So I had no idea how did they get a whole body's worth of one guy, 22-year-old. I have no idea what kind of weird ass science they did. Did they kill that guy so my dad could live? I have no idea. And the doctors who I used to talk to about that, they said, we don't know. We just, your father is, and my dad, because of who he was and what he did in the government and all of that kind of stuff, that was one of his perks. He got that kind of health care. And the medical health care is really exotic, but no one in America gets it, except that they're rich or connected or powerful, and we are heading for because man, they already have robots. There are Japan, China wants to be a number one in artificial intelligence and robots. And the problem with China is that it's the CCP, the Chinese Communist Party. So it's and back in the day, Deng Xiaoping, he wanted to have a little freedom, access, so people could own their own house and not have to live in a mud hut and not starve to death like Mao was doing to the majority of his population. And they did, that 20 years, they became, the largest economy and largest manufacturing economy. And, but they basically steal their technology and we give it to them. Like it's how the Nazis gave us jet planes and the atomic bomb, because that was nothing compared to the stuff they had. They had energy weapons, lasers and scalar weapons in the 30s and 40s, right? And time travel and almost they now have dimensional travel and light travel and all the above, but we don't have it. I mean, we do. See, the thing is, there are no more nation states. That's why we're heading towards globalization, right? And that's what all of this chaos is. We're rebranding the planet to be a plutocratic fascist, democracy, and and everyone's asleep. We are in lockstep, marching off the cliff. And so I'm old enough, and I've literally had 6 separate lives. That within each of those lives, I had about 20 different careers and exotic, interesting adventures. And I still probably have another 20 years left in me, because when I died and I went up, or I went to wherever that is, that other dimension, and going back home, and I was ready. I was tired. I was ready to leave this bag of water. But my teachers, my mentors, my guides said, "Well, hey, you welcome home, and have a piece of cake, and you can leave your body, you can die down there, but you haven't finished your job, so karmically, dharmically, you'll have a price to pay." I said, "What? You'll go right back snap back into the karmic wheel and pop out as something else, someplace else, and because you hadn't finished what you agreed to do, you'll have to do it, and who knows where and how and what you'll come out. Whereas if you go back into Al Bob here and finish up the job, you will have the opportunity to consciously ascend. That doesn't mean I'm going to heaven or, be another species or something. Um, but it's like when I came into this body, and I remember, you know, being in Las Vegas, being a car hop, and Bob, our creator, he had more cars than Jay Leno, and I used to ride around with him, and we'd shoot the breeze, and he had this project, and he kept sending people down, and half of them would bail before they even got there. And the few who did show up, they were lucky bastards. And they were guys like John the Baptist and other characters like that who usually got hung or, drawn and quartered and that. And that was kind of what I was sent down to be. But I wasn't going to end up like that per se. But I would, have an interesting life. And so, when I died in 2014, I said, okay. I guess it was 2013 actually, and I said, okay, I'll go back, and that's when I popped up on the gurney going into the operating room to get my legs cut off and my chest cut open, and I knew if they did that, I would definitely die, and then I'd have to fucking do the same thing over again. And so I should have just stayed up there, right? But I didn't. So I said, no, put me back in the ICU. And I took 6 years to drag myself to this, And, my doctors were amazed that I'm doing this, that my friends, I turn the lights on and they go, why do you have so much lights on? Because I can't see. And if I'm staying at this lady's house, and she's got so much stuff, and furniture with jagged and glass all over. I mean, I cut myself one time because and it's not like safety glass; it's like 1908 glass, so it's like razor blades. And she had this hutch that had this glass, and she, ran the vacuum cleaner and it broke one wall of the glass, and she didn't take it out. She left it in jagged things still in there, and I walked by it and I nearly sliced my hand up because I couldn't see it. And she said, you always keep the lights on, man. You're really scared of the dark. I said, no, I need to be able to see stuff so I don't, look at it. I have this scar on my hand, and I'll have that, and, it healed up quite nicely. I mean, I bled all over the place, So these are the, issues that I deal with. And most people, I remember when I was, when I was crawling back, my legs were still messed up. And I had them, like I said, I had them in metal braces, and I had to walk around with first I was in a wheelchair, and then I had metal braces and I had a walker. And my sit rate was like doing this. And that's like how you measure whether you're going to have infections or not, especially diabetic legs. And so for about 2 years, I just had a little boo-boo. It could explode, and where we're going to have to cut your leg off. And that happened to me twice. And both of the times was that I bumped against something in someone's house because I couldn't see and I couldn't feel my legs. 2 weeks went by, and then I saw my leg and it was all black. I had to go to the emergency room, and anyway, those two events over a 3-year period, I kept going to this place called urgent care, which were for people like me, not just, they had it set up because if you went to the emergency room, it cost a lot of money, but this urgent care was just for guys like me. So to get what I would probably get in the emergency room, it cost 1/10 of what the emergency room cost, and that's all they did. So the people who were there were really good at what they were doing. So I would, and so I was on this list where I could say, hey, my legs are screwed up. And I said, and they would say, oh, can you come in at 8 a.m, on Thursday next week? I said, yep. instead of having to wait 6 months. And so I would do that. And, I would probably go to those guys at least once a month, right, over that 3-year period. So I got to know them. I read all their poems. I, listened to their stories, gave them advice. And that's how I get people, at least in the medical world, to take care of me, because I take care of them, right? And so I'm waiting in this waiting room in this urgent care place. So everyone's, I'm the only one who has both my legs. Everybody else is in a wheelchair, and they're missing a toe or a foot or a leg, and I got everything still. And and I was very, once I had the really scary thing, I was really, every day I look at my legs, my feet in the morning and at night, and I keep them, hydrated, and, I work on not having, because if my foot starts to have a bunion or a callus, that can get infected. So I have to always kind of sand it down and work on it and keep my skin soft. And anyway, and one day I'll show you my feet. There are all these little dots all over my feet that are like something that wants to turn into an infection at any minute. So I have to keep an eye on everything. Anyway, so when my legs and everything was really a mess, and I hadn't really hit this homeostasis thing, because now I walk around, I don't even use, I use a cane if I go someplace that I might lose my balance, and like the floor might be slick, or it's this, or it's uneven. But normally I don't carry a cane. And I have a cane in the car, and if I look, okay, and so I went someplace today that it was concrete, and it was old concrete, so it wasn't flat, and it had ledges and crusty things, and so I brought a cane with me just so I wouldn't fall. So I'm in the urgent care place, right, and I'm waiting for my turn, and everyone there except me is in wheelchairs, and this lady. And everybody there has diabetes, right? Or aplastic anemia, or cancer, or something. Because all of these things are basically the same thing, right? They're all interconnected. They may have all different names, but they kind of attack you. Basically, it's a environmental thing. It's the stuff you eat, the air you breathe, the water you drink, and other chemicals you might be working in your workplace, right? And that's what causes all these diseases, right? And they thought, it's a genetic. No, you may have a genetic predilection, like me. My parents had a lot of stuff. I had a lot of stuff. But if I had been, not experiencing hedonism to the 10th power for 11 years, I probably wouldn't have gotten all this. If I had been my aesthetic self that I was up until 32, I stayed under I stayed between 180 to 220 until I was 35, right? And then I started putting on a pound here, putting on a pound there. By the time I was 40, I was 260. And then when I was 50, I was 275. And then when I started working for the Desperate Lawyers at 62, no, I started at 58. That's when I really, I put on 210 pounds in less than 10 years. So anyway, so I was taking that weight off, and I was, getting back to my aesthetic self. And, but so I'm waiting in that waiting room, and this lady is sitting there, and they, and they keep, every time I go in there, she's missing, first she just had a couple toes gone, and then she had all of her toes gone, and then she had the front part of her foot gone, and then she had her foot gone, and then her ankle, then her knee, and then her leg, right? And then the other one started to go. Anyway, so she's sitting there, and she, she's fishing for something in her big pocketbook, and she loses hold of it, and it kind of, everything spills out. And she probably had at least 40 candy bars in there. Now I'll have a candy bar every now and then, but not carrying 40, and she's probably consuming them every day. So, she's addicted to that, and that's why she's losing her legs and her life, and that's what pretty much everyone's eating stuff like that. And there are a lot of things you can do with your diet, but if you do what the medical model says, exercise and don't eat carbohydrates, and everyone's different. Some people need high carbohydrates, and some people, and you listen to, one day they say this is really good for you, and the next day they say it's going to kill you. So it's like, really. So and that's where we are. And so today, so it's 11:32. I'm going to stay on at least until 12 o'clock, and because I'm telling you guys, you have this opportunity to really change your life. And if I, at a point in my life, I had a lot of people who nurtured me and guided me to do my best, right? And I did that, and I thought I had it down. And so once I started losing, I remember when I was 40, I was, I had a new car, and I had lots of money in the bank, and I had a number of businesses, and I was, that was my focus. And I was still doing, social activism and art and all kinds of stuff. And I thought I was doing it. I had everything, right? And I was pumping gas, and there's the island where the gas pumps are, and the roof over everything. And where the gas is, they basically have that as concrete, because they had it asphalt. People are always, dropping gasoline on that. And if it was asphalt, the gasoline would eat up the asphalt, right? So around gas pumps, they have concrete, because concrete doesn't get eaten up by gasoline. So I'm pumping the gas, and in concrete pads, they have these expansion joints, right? And they're very linear, and they're very, 90 degrees to each other. And I'm standing there, and my toes are right on one of these things, right? And I look down at my legs, and my body, I used to do Tai Chi, Qigong, Jiu-Jitsu, and a few other martial arts. And they all come from Tai Chi. I mean, they don't come from Tai Chi, but Tai Chi, before you go into the form, you set your body. You put your feet right there, so they're like right under your hips, and then you kind of bend your knees like you're going to sit in a chair, but you don't, just a little bit. And what it does, it lines you up like you had a string in your head, and you're hanging there. Everything's in balance, and then you go into form, right? And there are many different forms in Tai Chi, not just one. And so, and I used to do that every day, 4 or 5 times, right? And I used to do Qigong, the same thing. And I used to do Jiu-Jitsu, right? And they are katas. They are this form that you don't need to fight anyone or exercise with anyone. It's nice to do that, but you can be disciplined and do it yourself. And for 30 years I did. Once I lived in the ashram when I was 19, and my sensei basically placed all this in me. I kept doing it for a good 28 years or 30 years, but my business and getting married and traveling the world and doing all kinds of stuff and having businesses and careers and all of that went kind of by the wayside. And I have to say, my first wife, I used to still do it, right? And she saw me do it, and she said, "What are you doing?" And I said, "Well, this is Tai Chi, and this is Qigong, and this is Jiu-Jitsu." And I had this girlfriend who was a great master in everything, right? And all my girlfriends, they, if I'm not intimate with them, they're still my friends. It's not like I write them off the list, and they're still my friends. So one thing my wife really kind of liked, she never had any. She had 3 or 4 really. She had one girlfriend, Yvonne, but she wasn't always with her, and she wasn't very good at making girlfriends when she would go someplace new, right? She was always hooking up with boys. And because she can manipulate boys. Anyway, so because she was really cute, very sexy, and anyway, so she saw me doing this, and she was, I want to learn this, and so I turned her on to my cave girl martial art, and they just loved each other, and they all told stories to each other about me, and they just would giggle about it all the time. And I had 3 or 4 other girlfriends who became Donna's best friends. She had a crew of girls, right? And a couple of them were like her, bisexual, and so they kind of got into it. And Donna liked fooling around, and I was really monogamous, so it cut all the boys who was always like hitting on her, and she liked that. She didn't shush them away, and I didn't. I knew that she wasn't going to fool around, and not, we go to a party or go out, and she would flirt, and it was no problem by me. Now, if I flirted, boy, she'd get upset, but she liked doing that, and so and she would flirt a little bit, and then she'd come back to me and hold my arm and kiss my cheek and stuff like that, just to show, see, guy, I flirted with you, but I'm going home with him. Anyway, so she had all these girlfriends that were my old girlfriends, and at first she thought it was going to be weird, but then she said, "This is the greatest." I have built-in girl. Marrying you as my boyfriend, gave me a built-in girlfriends, right? And when I lived in New York all those years, all of my girlfriends became girlfriends with all my other girlfriends. So I had this like family community. And it would be nice if the rest of the world would do it. But I mean, a lot of people said, boy, that is so strange. That is so unnatural. No, that is the natural thing to do, right? Anyway, so there I am, about 48, and I'm pumping gas, and my body just sets into the form. And I go, and and the form is, in Tai Chi Qigong, I mean, Tai Chi, because it has different levels of the form, different styles, per se, where Qigong is just Qigong, at least how I practice it was. But I'm standing at the gas pump, and, once I got it flowing, I didn't have my hand on the hose, but my body just kind of sets. And I realized that, look at this, I'm ready to do Tai Chi. And there's nobody around, so I did the first form right there. There's about 20 moves, and I did that. And, I hadn't done it for a good 20 years, but the muscle memory, once I started moving, it did it. Maybe not as good as I used to do it. And I said, wow, look at that. Well, I'm going to keep doing that. Well, I did it for about 2 days, and then that was it. Never did it again, right? Until, I died. And, so I was doing Tai Chi whenever I was standing up. I had the metal clamps on my legs, and I had my walker, and I would do Tai Chi with it. And I have a friend in town who's a really good Tai Chi master. And one day, he was, I was in his neighborhood, and he was walking through it, and I was there with the clamps on my legs and my walker, and I was doing Tai Chi, and he came over, he's just laughing hysterically. He says, boy, Albert, anyway. But that is my story, and that, if I had kept, well, I would have been a monk, but, if I had stayed the aesthetic guy I was up until, and I still am that aesthetic guy, I just didn't practice my disciplines, that's all, And I thought I was so groovy, cool, I didn't need to practice those things. Well, by not doing it, I freaking died. So, anyway. But here I am, now it's 11:41, and I've been focused on what 2022 is, going to be for me, and where I'm going to step through that door. And basically, hey there, Fish. Good to see you, buddy. Yep, back. Welcome back, Dragon. Yep, exactly. There he is. And so that is what I'm asking you guys to do. So, Fish, we're talking about, in less than an hour, it's going to be midnight, and it'll be December 21, right? And what that is, whatchamacallit, winter solstice, the longest, darkest day of the year, right? And that actually is New Year's Day, because the next day, December 22nd, it is 1 minute and 1.3 minutes more sun than the winter solstice, and then each day it gets a little more brighter and brighter and brighter, and we're heading towards spring and summer, and it'll be here before you know it, right? So, and we've actually so far had, thank you Jesus, very mild-ish winter. I mean, no snow, which I can deal with coldness, but snow, So hopefully it'll continue doing that. And so my focus for 22 for myself is from since I died in 2013 and I crawled back from death's door. I had to do that by being my better self, every day in every way, being better and better. And AMJ, yep. And what we're talking about is in less than 15 minutes, it's going to be December 21, winter solstice, which is in actuality the first day of the new year. And in the form of, the occult, that day is one of the most powerful days for anybody. And if you visualize what you want, so everybody who's here, I want to have you visualize what you want for 2020. I want you to visualize yourself being your best self every day in every way. I want you to visualize you living in the moment. And how you're going to do that, I want you to close your eyes and see yourself that you're in a park. You're at the great meadow of your superconscious mind, the sanctuary of your spirit, where you exist with love's co-creation, where you are that twin flame. See yourself as the twin flame. See yourself. You're sitting on a park bench, and right, and you got your eyes closed in this dimension, but you're seeing with all of your chakras, everything around you in your sanctuary of your own choosing. And you're sitting on that park bench, and there's trees in front of you, the big lake, the lake of the link, and the trees of the, tree of truth, the tree of knowledge, the tree of good and evil, and the forest there. And you're seeing all this, and you're seeing all the animals running around, and you see around the roots of the trees all of these rabbit holes, and that Alice went down, and you're seeing all of this, right? See it clearly. See it now, right? And by doing this, what you're doing is you're quieting your mind. You're seeing you are in that moment, this second, this nanosecond, you are in that park, sitting on that park bench, and you're not thinking about anything. You're not thinking about, having to go to work. You're not thinking about wanting that piece of cheesecake. You're not thinking about you got to take a crap. You're not thinking about anything except you are at one with all of that beauty in your sanctuary. See it clearly. And by doing that, you can now clearly resonate, vibrate what you want to be for the year 2022, which is going to, in less than 15 minutes, be the New Year's. Right? I should have had a hat and a horn thing, but I know somewhere around here I have one in a box. So, but just imagine me with a kind of, party hat and a blower and confetti and balloons, and we're going to have, New Year's. Oh, do, 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 right? And you are going to visualize yourself getting up from that park bench, and there's going to be a door right in front of you, and you're going to walk through it. And that will be the connection for you for the rest of this year, 2022, to be your better self in every day and every way. And as you go from 1 second to the next, you're not going to be in the past and you're not going to be in the future. You're going to be right here. And you're going to every second be your best. You're going to do your best. Now, you don't have to be perfect because you can't, but you can do your best. And that's a lot better than most people, a lot better than you have been doing most of the time. So that's what's going to make 2022 truly amazing for you, because you're going to see the difference between, when you were a member of the Insane Clown Party and now you are the decider of your life and not being manipulated. And you don't have to I'm not going to do that. I'm going to go on, I'm going to scream and yell and jump up and down. No, you're just going to be that loving, beautiful soul spirit that you are. And you're just going to flow through your life. And you're going to experience every nanosecond of 2022 and realize, I'm going to do this for the rest of my life. And if you do that, you're going to be, people are going to watch you and go, whoa, why is that person glowing? Why do they have that? Look at that smile on their face. It's like making me want to smile like that. What's going on? It's like, Buddhism was sitting at that park bench right where you are. So if you look over there, there's Buddha, right? And Buddha is glowing, right? And Buddha is in this, total connectivity with love's co-creation in being the best Buddha can be, right? And so that's Buddha, and you're you. And you have a little glow to you, but Buddha's like, whoa, baby. And some, tourist comes, walking along and looks at Buddha and goes, oh my, and goes over there and interrupts Buddha's meditation and taps, hey, buddy, are you God? And Buddha kind of opens one eye and goes, no. And then the guy goes, and Buddha goes back to being the glowing entity he is, and she is, that it is. And the guy goes, oh, buddy, well, if you're not God, what are you? And Buddha opens an eye and looks at him and goes, I am awake, not awoke, awake, conscious intent I am, conscious awareness I am, right? And so that is, and right now it's 11:50, so 10 minutes to 12 and New Year's, and December 21 being New Year's Day, right? It has been, because this occult, astrological, amazing moment in time given to all of humanity, all of our relations, if they can just quiet their moron self down, get in place where they're only existing in that moment, and where they're totally conscious and totally aware. And that's where you are right now. So it's 4 minutes to 12 o'clock. So I'm not going to say anything anymore. I want everyone to just sit, breathe deep, and be consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Everyone say it. Consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Consciously aware I am. Consciously intent I am. And to be consciously intent, you have to be consciously aware of what you want to be intent about. And what you're going to be intent about is preparing yourself for New Year's Eve to get a step, up from a park bench in your sanctuary, and there's going to be an open door right in front of you, an energetic door, and you're going to walk through it, and it's going to change you for the rest of not just this life, but for the rest of your spirit's existence. It's going to create an electric connection to your consciousness, and you're going to be conscious, conscious intent you are. Conscious intent you are. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Conscious intent I am. Om. Now it's 3 minutes to New Year's Eve. New Year's Day, right? So you're preparing, you're visualizing that life you want, and not just for 2022, but for the rest of eternity. See yourself the clear essence that you are, See yourself in your sanctuary. See yourself able to go into state and go into your Akashic record and use it as the tool that it is to see exactly who and what you are and what you're doing. And it will give you everything you need to know. You have your librarian. I'm introducing you to the librarian on your left, right? And to the left of your librarian is your animal totem, who the librarian brings you the information that your animal totem is your guide. You can see stuff in your totem and you go, what the heck does that mean? Your animal totem will tell you a story. Your animal totem is your own precious little griot that's inside of yourself. I am your Sensei Al Bob, your griot here on YouTube, and yet you have your own, right? And then to the left of your animal totem is your guardian angel, who always has your back. I am sure. One time I was walking down the street going to my dentist, and I took the subway. I got off at 34th Street where the library is, and I got off, and about 8 other people got off the subway with me, right? And we all went up the steps together, like in lockstep. And 34th Street's a very wide street, so I'm walking down the sidewalk heading towards Fifth Avenue, and around the 34th Street Library, there's a park all around the library, and around that large sidewalk around all the library, there are these little carols, that people can rent and sell books, and people can also bring tables, and it's legal to just sell books in front of that library without having a permit or a license or anything. So one place you can do that. And people in the park have these little tables, and they're like tables that you can play chess on or checkers, but they also, people bring books and they talk about books. It's really, really a nice, I don't know if they still do that anymore, but it was really nice. So, I'm going to my dentist, and there it is. It's almost, it's 11. What is it? 11? Oh, it's 11:55. Time went backwards. Unbelievable. Now it's 5 minutes. I can finish the story. So I get off the subway. I go up the steps. I'm walking down 34th Street with these 8 people. We're all in lockstep. And I'm looking at this carols, and I'm like falling a little bit behind. And then I see this book. I go, oh, look at this. This is really, look at that. It's only $40. This book is like worth maybe $1,000. Okay. I'm looking to see if I'm having $40 in my pocket. And it's a real esoteric, amazing book. And, and so I'm looking for whatever spare change I had. And so I've stopped. Those other 8 people are walking, right? And I'm there, and I'm looking for the money in my pockets, and I hear this horn blast, then wheels screech, and then a crash, and people screaming, right? And I look up, and what had happened was those 8 people who were walking, they went to Fifth Avenue, and the light stopped, it said don't walk. They stopped, and a bus was turning onto Fifth Avenue, like in front of them, and the bus driver had a heart attack, and he just slumped on the wheel and ran over them and plowed up that, in front of the library, and ran about 20 people over. And the 8 people that I was with, that bus hit first, and with its total force, because after it hit them, they were under the wheels and going up, and like being the brake. And those 8 people died. Now, if I was so like, oh, I got to get to the dentist, and didn't stop to look for a book, I would have been dead. So when you are letting the flow take care of you, that's the kind of thing that happens. And I was in the moment. I saw this just walking by, and I was getting I got to get to the dentist. And I just kind of looked at this table, and that book was there, and I knew what it was, and I just went, what the heck? And I picked it up, and I looked at it, I was reading it, and it was $40. And I was like, and that's, I put the book under my arm, and he goes, what are you doing? I said, I'm going to buy this book. Well, why you got it under your arm? I said, well, here, you hold it. Don't show it to anybody. I'm going to see, I'm going through every pocket. I'm going to get the $40. And he goes, okay, it's yours. Just give me the $40. So I'm doing that. He's standing there watching me, and I'm pulling out all my pockets, and that's when the crash, screams, and we both look up, and I said, because I had worked in a hospital, so I had some experience with the emergency room and triage and helping people, and I said, buddy, I've got $32 here. You hold on to that. Don't sell the book. I have to go see. I might be able to help those people. And I ran up there, and really, there was nothing I could do because these people were mush. Now, there were other people who, sprained ankles and broke a bone or two, and their life was in that thing. And I kind of went to them and said, don't move, sit here, put that coat around you. And then, the police came and the ambulance came, and I went back to the book guy. And he saw me do that. And I said, I don't have any, he says, here, have the book. And he gave me the $32 back. I said, you have the book. So, and then, so I was like about, 20 minutes late for my dental appointment. But it was truly amazing because I was already probably 5 minutes late. And so my dentist, he didn't have lots of people in his waiting room. You went there, that slot of time was yours, and there would be nobody waiting. Anyway, so I was like a few minutes late. So he and his girlfriend / secretary that his wife didn't know about were like looking out the window, and she goes, look, there's Al looking at a book. And he kind of, yeah, that's Al. And then they saw the bus careen and wipe those people out, and then, go down the sidewalk, and people jumped, and the other people jumped out of the way. And because running over the 8 people and killing them, and it made enough noise, and so no one else died. But anyway, that's being in the flow. If I had been anal retentive and had to get to the dentist, I'd been dead. And my dentist actually kind of realized that could have been me. And then he saw me kind of put the book down, run, and he checked people out. And so when I finally came, I was like a good half an hour late and had the book under my arm. And he looked at me and goes, well, that was pretty amazing. I said, yeah. I said, I got off the subway with those people. I walked half that block with them in lockstep. And if I hadn't stopped to look at a book, I would have been dead. I would have been there would have been 9 people under the tires, right? So that is what life's about. Okay. Oh, look at that. It's 12:01. See, when you're having fun telling stories, time flies. So happy everything, gang. I love you, and happy New Year. And remember this is the beginning of a new life for you guys, And anyone who watches this in the next few days, energetically, this is just like it is the time right now. So everyone who watches this, and even, if you watch this in February, you can still walk through that door and have a new life. Okay? Okay. Well, anyone else have anything to say? I know there's more than one person there. Anyone wants to talk to me, get a hold of me. The Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. Dude Awake 42 at Gmail. And if anyone wants to send something through PayPal to me, and PayPal is really getting pretty. I mean, it's still working. Someone sent me a few dollars last week, and I was able to process it. So it's still kind of working. But when I went to check it today, they had this, security thing, and they made me go through hoops, and I could barely even see what it wanted me to do. So anyway, the powers that be are like losing their grip, and so they're doing every kind of thing they can to distract the people. But this is, right now, this is New Year's Day. This is, the most powerful day for you. You lucky handful of people, somewhere between 3 and 60 people who are watching this at this moment, or who watch it sometime during this next 24 hours, you have the opportunity to use where the stars and planets are right at this minute, to really to use that as a fulcrum to change your life, and it's good to use any tool. This is just a tool. It's not a religion. It's not hokey mysticism. It's not magic. It's none of the above. It's just a tool. That's all it is, right? And pretty much everything that I offer you guys as an opportunity to make yourself better and better, those things are just tools. They are not, anything, bad, good, or indifferent. It's just a tool. And so I'll do another one tomorrow, or maybe two. I did one in the afternoon for about an hour, and then I did this one. And I'm going to go to bed because, for the last 2 days, I did one, and 80 people watched it, right? That was kind of exciting. I think that was Saturday, right? And the one I did, so Saturday, I did 10 hours, and the one I did on Sunday was 6 hours, maybe 7. And, so I got, Saturday into Sunday, I got maybe 3 hours of sleep, and Sunday into Monday, I got maybe 5 hours of sleep. So I'm going to go to bed now and get 8 or 9 hours of sleep. But I love you guys, and this is your new year, and it's not a resolution. Resolution means it's I'm just thinking of doing it, right? I'm just going to try. No, you use this as a tool. It will change your life forever, because you will be consciously aware, and you will be aware of the intent you want. So you will have conscious intent to do your best every nanosecond of the rest of your existence, right? So this will assist you to ascend your spirit. So in this life, just by watching your Sensei Al Bob, you will be able to move forward rather than get stuck here, or even worse, have the fate of Hamlet of repeating the same thing over and over, tomorrow and tomorrow and tomorrow, meaning just the same thing all the time, what Bill Murray experienced in whatchamacallit day. So that's it, you guys. Anything you guys want to say? Let's see, what have you been saying? So Dragon was here, and Fish is here, and MJ is here, and others are here. There's probably at least 10 or 20, because where there's just one, it's when I sign off, it shows me how many people have watched it, how long they watched it for, what the communal. So, like Sunday, when I did it for 7 hours, so it said 7 hours, and it had 60 people who watched it, and the accumulated time was 70 hours. I did it for 7 hours, so pretty much a lot of people watched it for most of the time. So, and the chat was very nice. Both Saturday's chat and Sunday's chat was very sweet and very nice. And this chat is nice and good. The last ones had about 10. Both of them had 10 to 15 people that chatted. This one is maybe 4 or 5. So I never measure by gross numbers. It's quality over quantity. And I have to say, you, my cadre, my adepts, you are high quality. And I thank you for being here. And I'm going to, unless you got something to say, I'm going to go to bed. Okay? So I'll see you tomorrow. And I'll try to do one sometime, and maybe, between noon and 4, and then sometime, between 7:30 and 9, right? So come and take a look, keep an eye out during those periods of time, okay? And, there's Eddie M. I'm way late, but Merry Christmas, Bob. And Ed, tonight was New Year's Eve, and right today being 12:09, this is New Year's Day. Winter solstice is the New Year's Day. And the Roman businessmen of the Caesar's calendar changed it because this is such a powerful day. This is the day that you can visualize what you want for your life. So right now, let's take a few moments. I gave a nice little guided meditation of everyone's sanctuary of their own choosing. Everyone was sitting on a park bench along with Buddha and visualizing what they wanted 2022 to be for them. And above all, what 2022 for all of you is going to be, you're going to be consciously aware and consciously have intent to be your best, to do your best, not to try, but to do your best in everything you do. And you will be in that moment. So you will be perfect timing. You won't be in the past. You won't be in the future. You will be in the moment, and you will be consciously aware and the conscious intent to do your best. And this is the present I'm giving you, Eddie, and all the rest of the cadre that was here tonight. That's the present I give you. That 2022 is going to be the best year of your life, and it will change everything because you will be aware, and you will be conscious, and you will be your best. Now, you don't have to be perfect. You can't be perfect. Don't worry about being perfect. Just do your best in the moment, whatever that is. And it's not something that can be judged because you are doing your best. And by doing your best, you're going to be in the right place at the right time, consciously aware of it, and your life will be blessed. And that is the present I give you, right? So thanks, Eddie, for showing up. Look, you showed up in the nick of time. I was just about, I have the little finger right on end the story. And you showed right up on, that is fortuitous, Ed. That really shows you that, oh my God, 2022 is going to be the most amazing year of my life. And so this day, spend the rest of this day visualizing, meditating, and praying about what you want and how you want things to work out. See them. And you have now, a whole 2 weeks to do this every day. And that's the Christmas, Saturday is going to be your Christmas. This is the Christmas present, Ed, and all of you. This is your Christmas. Your Sensei Al Bob is giving you the Christmas present of conscious awareness and conscious intent. Now, you have to unwrap the present and use the present as a tool to change your life. But, Ed, this is such a fortuitous heralding. You should really feel happy. You should really whoa, I can't believe. And this just shows you that you don't have to disbelieve anything. All of these good things are happening to you, and you can believe in them and not believe in them, but have faith because they're coming from love's co-creation. You're a child of, and I don't use the word God because it means something else, but you are a child of love's co-creation. And 2022, for all of you are children, childs of love's co-creation. All of you are blessed. And 2022 is going to be an amazing year. And just your present in it is going to change this world for the better. And this is why I do the show. Just for moments like this. I love you guys. It makes my heart happy. So, thank you, Eddie, for being. You're like Mercury. You're the guy with the little wings who brings the flowers. Yeah, right. So, thank you, buddy. So, I love you all, and I'll see you tomorrow. Right. I'm gonna, like I said, sometime between noon and 4 will be the daytime show, and sometime between 7:30 and 9:30 will be the nighttime show. Okay, so get more people and leave some comments in the comment zone. And anybody who wants to talk to me, mano y mano, get a hold of me at the dudeawake42 Gmail, dudeawake42 at Gmail. And anybody wants to drop anything in my PayPal, I sure could use it, because being on the bop, living out in the woods, I don't spend anything, but being on the bop, I have a tendency to. So, artist, FTD, love you too, and everyone, bless you all. Every single one of you, just like Tiny Tim would say. Okay, gang. I'll see you tomorrow.